Okay, so I'm gonna explain how you should be playing Fracture, or just like a general outline of how you should be playing Fracture, just because people in my rank don't know how to play it well, and even lower probably don't know how to play it that well either. So before we go into it, let's go over agents you can play. So for Duelist, mostly all of them are actually pretty good. Phoenix has good sight lines on it if you push properly. I say maybe the worst one is none of them. All of them are actually pretty good. Of course, Reyna's a ranked pick. But yeah, duelists, all of the duelists are very, very viable. Now, for initiators, I would say the two best are probably Teo, Breach, and then you combine them with a flash initiator, or either a flash initiator or a recon initiator. It doesn't really matter. So like Fade, Breach, and Teo, they're all pretty good. All the initiators are actually pretty good. Now the ones that excel are definitely Teo and Breach, just because of how you're supposed to be playing Fracture. Now for controllers, you can play whichever one you want. Brim is probably the best one, and then if you want to carry, you play Clove. And then lastly for Senti, I would say the best Sentis are definitely KJ and Chamber in my personal opinion. I'm gonna play Chamber right here, but yeah, I would say either pick KJ or Chamber, maybe Vise. Vise is pretty good as well. It's rank, so team comps don't particularly matter, but in my opinion, those two are the strongest picks. Now, you would pick Chamber if you're mechanically good, and if you're not that confident in your mechanics, then I would probably pick KJ. I'm gonna go over this again since I messed up the first time and made it a little unclear. I'm gonna start on defense of Fracture, because defending on Fracture is a lot harder than it is to attack, in my opinion, and in most players' opinion as well. The first thing you have to understand on Fracture is that you cannot play on site. Playing on site is pretty much a death trap, and you will typically get smoked every single time you play on site, and just let them come to you, because there's just not a lot of spots to play. You can play up here, but this is wall bangable by pretty much every gun other than like pistols, I believe. You can't play here because a lot of people will clear it and just spray through it, and you'll typically die. You cannot play here because a lot of people split through sands or split through over here, and just hard to play off of that as well. And then sitting right here is kind of bad just because this angle is you're just at a complete disadvantage because he can see you first. So playing on site is not advised. On A, the best thing you can do if you're the solo player, like say if you're playing Sentinel here, or you're playing like Duelist and then the Senti, like a Jet, then either fighting for one of these mains is very, very important. And in this map, in my opinion, is both a confidence and a mechanics check to me personally, just because of how much you have to fight for these areas. Now, if you don't have like any initiator on your team, like a Breach to help you stun, I would personally recommend only players like either maybe Neon to get the first shot off and be able to run away. Jet and Chambers be peeking this area. Why do I say this? Is because typically Breaches like to stun, they like to flash, and they like to use a lot of their util, especially if you've been playing this area a lot. And so it's going to be hard to play here if you're like not a Reyna. Say if you're playing Raze or any like another initiator, it's going to be hard to play this area because you're not going to be able to escape after they util dump you and stuff. Anyone with a get out of jail free card to be able to play this area. So yeah, you want to fight for one of the mains. If you want to fight for A, say if you're playing Chamber, you can put a trip right here, or you can put a trip, or not a trip, a TP over here, or right here in this area, and then you can peek right here and TP. If you are like the solo, if you're playing weak side, then you want to be playing as Jet, Reyna, Chamber, or like a Yoru here, so you can be able to fight it, get away without really any repercussions. Whichever one you choose, Dish or main, whichever one, just getting control of this area, being able to consistently win your duel in that area will stop them from always pushing the site, or just make them use a bunch of util so the site hit will be weaker. That's genuinely it. You cannot sit on site. That's the problem I see a lot of players do. They just sit on site, don't move, don't really take any space. Pushing these areas is actually also very, very good since you take this space, and it eliminates a possibility of players doing anything. If you're not able to consistently win your fights and you hear them, or you're playing like weak side and you can't really get the pick well, then I would recommend you getting off of site and then playing fast retake. Because as you can see, the same reason of why playing defense on site is really bad is why fast retakes are really, really good, because there's not a lot of spots you can play on here. And if you're properly fighting the areas and they're using a bunch of util, they're not going to have a lot of util to be able to fight against you. And so fast retaking is very good. It's very important to keep that in mind. So if you start losing your duels or you can't like get the pick and you can get away, then getting off of site, playing fast retake as they come in is very, very good. Playing Fracture defense isn't that complicated. It's just whether you're confident enough to be able to take these fights. It's more like if you're taking these fights and losing, that's typically going to be the reason you lose defense. If you do want to know some like chamber TPs, you can chamber TP right here. You know, of course, peek. It's a normal chamber TP. Chamber TP right here, of course. See, right there, you can TP. You can chamber TP into your spawn right here. TP here. And you can, you know, that's about it. Now, outside of that, a good thing you can do, say if you're playing like chamber or something, or if you have an op, you can actually play just solo on a site, and then your teammates can play 4 on the other side and take those fights, take that space, and then they can fast rotate and play retake, or they can 4-man flank. That's actually very, very good. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you're only using a gun. I would only recommend doing that if you have an op. So I'm playing chamber. I can put my TP in tower, hold this with an op right here, for example, and then I have my trip here. I have pretty much full control of A or of B, and so my teammates are much more free on A site, and they're pretty much guaranteed to have to hit A. And then if they hit this, they can fast rotate, and then I can stand my ground as long as I can, and they can retake. And yeah. But the reason I say you should only use this with op is because of how much easier it is for you to get your picks with the op. It's only one shot, and it's just such a strong gun. A lot of people don't use util to clear you out, and you're just basically a human juggernaut with it as well. If you have an op, I would recommend just playing solo site and then having A with stack. Other than that, I don't think there's much else to defense. It's actually very, very simple. If you want to know the agents that should be on weak side, then it should be the one agent with a get out of jail free card. So that's like Yoru, Chamber, Jet, Reyna, those agents, and then a Sentinel. And then the players who should be on like the stronger side should be the Initiator, the other duelist that you might have in ranked, or just literally everybody else. That's it. Now let's go on to attack. Now for attack, it's even more simple. So there's a couple things you can do. One, you will never ever, if you watch any high ranking player, you will never ever see 5-mans on this map, because you're trying to just shoot yourself in the foot if you do. If you don't notice is that there is a 1 small choke right here, 1 small choke over here, 1 small choke right here, and then 1 small choke over here. Now you may be asking like, oh, if I go arcade, we can split right here, and then we can split right here. But then they have a bunch of angles to look at you, so they could have had B main control and push down that, because if you fight for B main, you'll notice that there's no one here. You take the B main space, and they're splitting through arcade. They have this space. Then they have the tower space they can sit on, and then they can peek out of here. They can peek out of there, and you're kind of just screwed. Now for A, oh, what if they peek through sands? They'll have a stun. They'll have dish control to look at you from here. Of course, you can smoke it, I guess. But say if they're playing a chamber, they can jump out and then TP away. It's just not intelligent, and it's not a good play to just go through the mains in 5-man main. Now, there's a couple things you can do. You can 4-man stack one of these points, and then have one late, or not one late, one go and take space somewhere else. Like such as having a lurker, or just 1-man split through here. Now that we're done with talking about why it's bad to 5-man an area, it's on to how you should be playing the attack. So there's a couple things. You want to split pretty much every single time you push. So you can send 2 here, 3 here, 3 here, 2 here, 1, and then 4-man here. That's perfectly fine as well. It's just that the 1 should be typically the senti, but the 1 should be mechanically sound, like the person who's, can shoot their gun. It's very, very important, because since you're solo, you have to be very confident in your gunfights. In my personal opinion, the weakest area or the strongest area to push from is going to be this back area. Why do I say this? Is because a lot of players in ranked like to autopilot. So say you're starting on attack, the first thing you're going to push is either B main or A main right here. So it's going to be very normal for the defense to also autopilot and be like, okay, I'm just going to fight A main since I typically, go A main. Or I'm going to fight B main since I typically go B main. It's just how players play. They like autopiloting. They don't think too much. That's typically where it's going to be. So if you push like arcade, for example, is going to have a lack of util here. And so a fight's not going to be that much. You won't have to use as much util. You can just use the util for taking tower, and then taking side. I saw a Nats VOD where they pretty much always 4-manned and then had Nats, you know, solo lurking through B main just so they don't take that space. And they pretty much got sight every single time just because of how little they fought this area. It's not a lot of people think to fight arcade or dish. So being able to take this space and pushing it in, taking advantage of their mistakes is very, very good. If you want to know where the smokes should be, the smokes are very dependent on how you're hitting. So it should be here and here on B, and it should be, if you're splitting, it should be here and here. If you're going to split through A main, like B main right here, if you want to smoke, the most important smokes probably are right here and drop, and then being able to take the fight. If you're using Brim, then you can smoke here as well. But if you're not using Brim, then I would say drop, since it's a very, very dangerous angle. You know, smoke here since it's also a dangerous angle, and it's easier to fight if it's smoked off. And then you clear that, and then they have to be wide out of CT, and then the people A main can just take this fight comfortably since they don't have to worry about drop. That's what I would recommend. Now for angles, you have to be very, very aware of when attacking. So a lot of players will be playing in this smoke. You want to be very, very careful. So like if you're using Vise, you can Thorn here. If you're using KJ, you Thorn. Just like stop them from being able to peek out. Just because, as I said, fast retaking is very, very good because of how little space there is. There's not a lot of spots to look. So this angle is very dangerous. This angle is dangerous if you don't have a breach. Typically tails, but this will be utiled out. So this angle is important to look at. A lot of players play like this, waiting for noise, and then they peek out like that. Be very, very aware of that. And then this angle is very, very dangerous. So I would recommend how you should walk up. You want to walk out like this because there's a lot of times they'll op right here, and so you don't want to be in that angle. And if you're sitting right here, it's a much more advantageous angle for you. It's easier to hold, and like the crosshair placement, super. Clear this. Be wary of that angle. If they're wide right here, they're weird, but just clear this. Clear that. You walk up. As you walk up, you just want to be very, very aware of one of these two angles. Clear this. Clear like right here, because a lot of people will sit right here in this area, and then this will be smoked off. So when you smoke these off, you're gonna fight this area up here. I would recommend being careful of this, and then clearing the rest of it. It's a very, very lazy way to do it. You can be much more meticulous since there is a lot more spots they can sit. But that's just a general outline of what you should be looking at. Throw the util right here, stop it from going here, take tower, and boom, you should be fine. Now for B, if you want to go through arcade, this first angle right here, right here, I would recommend looking up top first, doing that, boom, and then go down right here. A lot of people will sit behind this box. I did that really badly. But a lot of players will sit behind this box, play off a noise, say you tap the bomb, not the bomb, the orb, and then they'll swing and use some util. For dish, it's really not that complicated. There's only one angle. Just swing out, hold this, make sure you're not going to get utiled. Have a teammate with you. You can either walk up like this, and then wide swing over here. So they can be playing like right here. I see a lot of up downs over here. Right here, right here. So just be very aware of this angle. Then when you come up, clear this, and then clear right here. Those are the most important areas to look at when you're in A main. Now for A main, typically you want to start at the back of the wall. You can deady peek this guy. Boom. Typically he'll be just sitting right here, so you can there. If he's not there, he's gonna be like right in this area right here. And then you can just go on this back wall. Just clear this. You can probably walk. You can definitely walk. You'll have angle advantage if he's sitting in this corner and you'll be able to see him. Now right here, you can clear this. Be very careful. A lot of players sit up here. A lot of players sit right there. So be careful of this. And you can clear right here. Very rarely will people be sitting in this area, but a lot of people will actually sit right here. especially if you didn't open sands, because it's kind of like, it's just very uncommon. It's a weird angle, and they can kind of get out pretty safely. As you walk up, I would recommend just holding your crosshair right here. Not a lot of people will peek from right here since it's kind of dangerous and you're really exposed. You're just in the middle of sight. I would recommend training your crosshair right here. Boom. They can't really see you. If you're right here clearing it, they can see you from right here. I saw that from a guide. But clearing it like this, they can only pick you from right here, but you have your teammates, and then boom. As you walk up, you want to be very careful of drop, so you want to pick drop. These two, just towards the walls, because a lot of people like playing so they can get into cover after you shoot. Look towards the top. You can peek right here if maybe someone's sitting right there. And then as you go, you know, you clear that, clear this area. Those two spots. Very uncommon for somebody to just be sitting right here. But you should also be using util in this area since there's not a lot of spots. So like tail missile right here, tail missile, shock, afterburn, like or aftershock, and then you can just take sight. Now as you get under here, you're gonna peek CT. You're gonna peek right here, typically. And then in my opinion, I typically go up, clear towards this. The better option will probably being to clear the ground first. I'd actually jiggle typically. Just so like they can't shoot me since like it's just too many spots to clear. And just if you're clearing like this, then you have to flick up here, it's just a hard kill. So if you jiggle, figure out where they are, you can Deddy peek. As I go across, I would clear after though. Video done. Fracture's easy. It's really not a hard map. It's just like a confidence thing, and you being able to win your duels. Do not sit on site. And fight with your teammates. That's it. It's like that for every map. You just apply the same things. Just don't sit on site. Be more proactive. And win fracture. Win your fights. If you're losing all your fights, use a cringe gun. Judge, Odin, Op, Outlaw, Bucky. And yeah, that should fix your problems. Hope you win your games. Thank you.